Hey guys, welcome to Hughes History. Are you a kid in school and you're always yelling, "What about my rights?" Well, I'm about to tell you about your rights as we examine some Supreme Court cases that apply to you, the kid in school. And you might not be too thrilled with the outcome, but giddy up for the learning. You better be smart about it. So here we go. Let's go get her done right now. So we're going to start off with some good news. The actual first case that applies to students in a positive manner is 1943. This is West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett, where a group, a Jehovah's Witness religious group, is basically complaining that they don't want to have to say the Pledge of Allegiance, they don't want to have to salute, and in the 1940s, you were compelled to do so or you could get suspended. And you could see sometimes the saluting was a little bit creepy. But either way, the Supreme Court's going to rule on the side of students who don't want to have to salute, say the Pledge of Allegiance, saying that the government doesn't have the ability to compel you to do that. So it's not so much a freedom of speech kind of idea, but more of kind of a freedom not to have to speak, not to have to act. But the big case, and this is the one you want to study, kiddies, is Tinker versus Des Moines, 1969. So here's the context of the case. It's 1965, the end of 1965, and the Vietnam War is getting a little bit hot, even though it's the Cold War. And Robert Kennedy has basically announced that he wants a truce, a ceasefire, as we approach the Christmas holiday of 1965. And there's a lot of protesters and a lot of anti-war people and a lot of kids that are for this. And that includes the Tinker family. We have John, who is 15, Mary Beth, Paige, Hope, and a friend, Chris Heckard, that get together and they plan on supporting this endeavor by putting on some black armbands and going to the school. And when the Des Moines School District gets hold of this information, and it's not just the high school, but the middle school and the elementary school, they kind of, preempt it by saying, "Don't you dare. We don't want any of that kind of disturbance when we're trying to do the learning." And the kids do it anyway. And then on December 16th, Mary Beth and Chris Eckhard got suspended. John got suspended the next day. And it would have ended there if it wasn't for the lobby group, the civil rights organization, the American Civil Liberties Union, who came in and said, "We think we should do something about this." And that case eventually travels to the Supreme Court. They had lost in the lower court of the district court. Court of Appeals was a tie. And now they're there to say that students have some rights. And the court agrees. It's the Warren Court, the liberal activist court, who basically says that it's one thing if you're trying to, promote learning, you're trying to have a calm atmosphere. You're not doing it for that reason. You're doing it because you want to avoid controversy. So students have a right, maybe not to yell in the cafeteria, but they have a right to symbolically protest, even if it's an unpopular opinion, in school. The court says you don't shed your rights at the schoolhouse gate. You got some rights. So enjoy that, because I'm about to poke holes all over your Tinker armband rights. So the first big hole in Tinker is going to be in 1986. It's an episode that occurs in the early 1980s. It's called Bethel School District versus Frazier. And Matthew Frazier is a senior, and he's nominating his friend Jeff to be on the student council. And he gets up there and he says, Jeff is a man who is firm. He is firm in his pants, firm in his character, and firm in his belief in our students. And he will use his point to pound away at this. The principal immediately suspends Matthew, saying that you've crossed the line. This isn't freedom of speech. And he's basically saying that's not for you to interpret. This is my freedom of speech. This is the Bill of Rights in action. And the court sides on the side of the school, basically saying that the school has an ability to limit Tinker if it comes to things that they can interpret as being sexual innuendos. And they say, obviously, the kid's referring to that, so we have the right to shut you down on that. And there are current cases. For instance, there's some students, middle school students, who are wearing the I Love Boobies bracelet in the kind of the cancer awareness fundraising spirit, and they were suspended, and they actually won their appeals case. It's not going to the Supreme Court. They said that that was a legitimate freedom of expression, and they're allowed to do that. But you better be careful if you're getting a little bit of, close to the hanky-panky, which is hashtag creepy. I got another hole for you. This is Morris versus Frederick, 2007. It was an incident that occurred in Anchorage, Alaska in 2002, where a young man by the name of Joseph Frederick wanted to play a little prank. And basically what occurred was there was a Olympic relay coming through town, so Deborah Morris, the principal of the school, released the students early. Joe wasn't there. He showed up a little bit late, but when he showed up across the street from the school, and as the cameras came out, their big moment was going to be on the TV screens. He unhurls the banner, his freedom of speech in action, bong hits for Jesus. I don't know what's going through the kid's head, but I know what's going through Deb Morris's head as she runs across the street and rips it out of his hands. And eventually, he's going to go to the Supreme Court saying, she violated my freedom of speech. She had no right to do that. And the school says, you better sit down, son. Number one, this was sort of a school-sanctioned event. You were supposed to be in school. The school had let out for that purpose. So whether you were there on your own or you're not, you're representing the school. And number two, it's not so much a freedom of speech issue when you're trying to advocate for drug use. And that's interpretable, but the principal gets to make that decision. So even though you're not in school, and even though you believe it's freedom of speech, the school has a right, because it's sending a message about drug use, to not let you put that banner up. So son, you can sit down again because you're suspended. So you want to print an article in the newspaper, don't you? And you think you could do whatever you want because it's your freedom? I got news for you. That's going to be limited. This is another Hall and Tinker. It's called Hazelwood versus Kallmeyer, 1988. And the students basically had written some articles that were first shown to the principal. And one of the articles was on divorce. Another one was on teen pregnancy. They were interviewing students, keeping their names anonymous. But the principal was like, I don't think this is a good idea. You're not going to print that. They go all the way to the Supreme Court saying that, if we don't have this freedom of press right in school, how are we going to live it when we get out of school? And the court says, no, school is for learning, and schools have to have the ability to have what's called prior restraint, which means you're going to have maybe more limitations on your freedom of expression when it comes to press in school, because that's not really why you're there. You're there to create a learning environment, and if the school believes it's getting in the way of some kind of pedagogical purpose, then it has the ability to do that. So watch what you print in the newspaper, because you might be going down. Yo, you can't search me. You ain't got no warrant. Fourth Amendment, baby. Psych. Not in school, you don't. This is New Jersey versus TLO, 1985. And basically, these two girls, they're doing a little bit of the smoking in the bathroom. They come out. Someone smells it. The vice principal's like, empty your bag. They're like, we're not going to empty my bag. The vice principal's like, I'm going to empty your bag. And bada boom, you have drug paraphernalia. You're out of here. And now she's going to the court saying he didn't have a right to search my bag. He had no probable cause. He didn't go for a warrant. He just on a whim decided he was going to do this. So it's an illegal search. Therefore, you can't use that in a court of law. Mapp versus Ohio. Needless to say, the court says, sister, you better sit down because you're in big trouble. And what they come down to is basically saying the school has a safety purpose. They have to have the ability, if there's reasonable suspicion, to be able to search a student's purse. What if there's a gun in there? What if there's something dangerous in there? We can't have this kind of probable cause warrant court thing going on. You have an expectation of privacy, but not an expectation beyond a reasonable suspicion. Who's the reasonable suspicion decider? So I guess that would be, the person in authority. So why don't you empty your pockets? Be careful what you do, kids, because you don't get probable cause. You can't make me pee in a cup. Oh, maybe we can. There's actually 2 court cases that deal with student drug testing. Both of them are random drug testing that occur when you join first an athletic group, and this was the earlier court case. This is Veronia's School District versus Alton, 1995, where a student was joining a sports team and basically said, look, I didn't do anything wrong. You can't make me, give up my pee-pee because you just are randomly drug testing. You have to show I did something wrong. And the court says, not so fast, son. We have a duty in school, not only to send a message about saying no to drugs, but to make sure, especially in athletics, you can't be on the field high. You could get hurt. So we have a duty to protect not only the message, but to protect you. We want to protect you. So therefore, it was held constitutional that schools can do random drug testing when you're joining, let's say, the football team or the baseball team or whatever. Now, the next court case, which is Board of Education versus Earls 2002, doesn't deal with athletic groups, but competitive non-athletic groups like the chess club or the debate club. And remember, the prior message was, we're doing it for your safety. You could get hurt out there. But the court's going to broaden that. They're going to broaden the hole in your kind of Bill of Rights shield by saying, nope, the message of drugs is so important. We have such a duty to protect that we have the right to do random drug testings if you join the chess club. So there you go, guys. That's all the court cases. You got Tinker versus Des Moines. Put that in your pocket, but be careful because there's holes in that pocket. So guys, we hope you learned something about your rights. You might not be that happy, maybe you are, or I don't know, but it's important to be smart. And it's important to know the Constitution and specifically the Bill of Rights. So we put a little playlist together. If you don't know any of the amendments, you can go right there and click them and learn all about them and grow your brain 10 times its size. And if you haven't subscribed to Hughes History, I don't know, you don't want Angry Mickey. You want Angry Mickey? No, of course not. And you want to save puppies. So if you want to do that, click that red button right there. You'll zip through the internet and check out and subscribe to Hughes History. And check us out online at www.hiphughes.com. And thanks for watching, guys. Again, giddy up for the learning. And always remember, where attention goes, energy flows. We'll see you next time. Press my buttons.